Good morning. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. We're going to paint our happy bunny. Hey, TGIF, right? And it's especially good because we're going to paint together today. Yay! So, I'm going to wait for you guys to hop on. Hop on, get it? Hop on. And I think I have all my stuff together. I'm just a couple minutes early. Yeah, it's 7:59. So I get to chill for a moment. Yay. Just waiting for you guys to show up here. Let's see if I can find myself on my iPad over here. Somebody just hopped on. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So you're going to hear my furnace kick on here and there, sorry. Good morning, Denise. I'm going to give everybody just maybe a minute to hop on and we'll get started. How are you today? Hello, hello. Oh, where am I? Where am I? Oh, here I am. I found myself. Let me turn the volume down. All right, right now the camera is backwards, but that's okay. So, okay. Good morning, Christine. Good morning. Good morning. I'm just getting all set up. And I'm sorry, you're gonna hear my furnace in the background. I wish I could just play music. That would be so nice. I still haven't looked into Zoom. I had to see if you said happy to be here or happy to be here, Christine. Getting myself set up. And I'm gonna go over all the stuff. All the stuff. All right, I should probably get started. I wish I had my coffee. So, if you didn't see the first couple videos, let's see, I did a video on what we're gonna be doing, right? I forget what the first video was. Good morning, Lisa. I think in the first, are you happy to be here? Happy Friday. So, I don't know, I don't remember what I said in the first video. I think we were setting up this whole thing. I think I decided somewhere along the line that we're going to use the hashtag Happy Bunny. So if you want to see anything related to this tutorial, this lesson, which is our first lesson for March. Good morning, Tammy. Are you happy to be here? Thank you, Lisa. I'm glad you loved my bunny. Yay. Yeah, I painted that in the zone. I had a good, concentrated amount of time without distractions. And we all do better when we're in our right mind, right? So anyway, the first video, we talked about what we're going to be doing. And I decided to use the hashtag Happy Bunny. So if you want to find anything on this is all going to be on this Facebook page. It's not going to be on the Artist Heart Studio website. Good morning, Trish. Are you happy to be here? Hop on in, let's get started. So, hashtag Happy Bunny is how you would find all materials related to this course. It's not going to be on the Artist Heart Studio website. I'm just going to leave it here. Maybe later I will download some of these videos and put it on, but for now I'm just doing it this way. So, I don't know, one of the videos I showed you how to draw. That was yesterday, right? Showed you how to draw the bunny, showed you guys, and then afterwards I uploaded this Pinterest photo. Everybody's happy. So I would say print this out for yourself to have as a reference to look at. It's always good to have that nearby to look at, to check yourself. One thing that I noticed, because I started painting without looking at my reference. I was a bad girl. And then I'm like, I don't know, this doesn't look right. So I printed it out and I realized the darkest dark is the eye, which is good. You know, I want attention on that eye, but also, I gotta move the type out of the way. I'm not gonna see your comments on here. So the very darkest dark is the black of the eye, but also in between the ears and inside the ear is probably the next level dark. And then after that, it's right above the tail. And there's little specks of dark all over his body. So we're gonna talk about a technique to get that in there. And you know, with acrylics, we usually work dark to light. So your bunny's gonna look a little bit dark at first. You wanna get those darks in there and you wanna maintain them, and that's gonna be your goal today. So sometimes that's a good idea to have in the back of your mind. What is my goal? If you've never painted animal fur or hair, it can be daunting, honestly. You know, especially, I don't know what size you're working in, but it can feel like, oh my goodness, this is gonna take me forever. You know, it starts to be, ugh. But I'm gonna try and make it a simplified process for you so that at least you know what you're doing. You have a mindset about, okay, I can get this done because I've got a plan, you know what I mean? Because you can just get lost in animal hair. So that's the idea of having this printout. You need to have this to look at to remind yourself. And what I want you to notice, a lot of being an artist is observation. And so maybe, you know, sometimes it is a good idea to, you know, trace over a photo, just notice and observe things. So when you really look at it, what you notice, if you were drawing black lines to represent all those hairs, you probably notice that the little black lines you would draw up here are very short dashes of black. Then when you get in the middle area, there are longer dashes of black and they have direction. Around the spine, they're straight like this. On the side, hip, or whatever this is, they're at an angle, okay? So I want you to notice those are gonna be the direction of your brush strokes, and that's what makes this fun. Right here, they kind of tuft up. Here, it's just gonna be kind of a solid textured area, and we'll do a different maybe technique for that. But that's the main thing. And here by the neck, the brush strokes are sideways, probably because there's so much action that takes place with that fur that it gets tufted. So, and then on the hair, on the ears, that fur or hair is very, very short and soft looking. So that's the main thing that we're gonna try and make happen today. Okay, that would be your goal. It might be a very lofty goal if you're a beginner painter. You might be feeling like, oh no, I don't know if I can do that. So here's what you would do. You would practice that on a side in your journal. You would practice that. You would paint a square of dark, dark black and then come over it. I'm going to show you the techniques. Paint over it with a layer of dark gray, then little brush strokes, dashes of an even lighter gray, longer dashes to represent the direction we just talked about. So, you know, you would just practice it. Short dashes, medium dashes, long angled brush strokes representing the direction of the fur. So anyway, that's what you would do. You would just practice in your journal page, okay? Enough about that. So then what I decided to do, I don't know, I had a whole day yesterday and I decided, oh, more of you have hopped on. Sorry I didn't say good morning yet. I got into my talking here. I need to have my comments show over here. Let me say good morning to you. Who did I miss? Alicia, good morning. Patsy, good morning. Are you happy to be here? Anyway, that's what I said to everybody as they hopped on. So I painted this yesterday. Is it backwards? It is. Let me just turn it for a second. And I love how it turned out. This, and this. So I like how it turned out. And it's hard to get it straight. Gosh darn it. I don't know, I posted pictures. And I'm kind of glad I painted in the tail. You don't have to do this thing that we're doing. I didn't even check this out yet because it was too wet. It's a little, I went too far with my paint underneath. But it's kind of, wow, kind of weird. I have another one. I don't know how I feel about this. This one's humongous. Oh, this one's just right. Anyway, that's going to be the sparkle. I don't know if I'm going to like this after all, actually. We'll see. What do you think? Does that look kind of dumb? I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with the resin yet. We're not going to do that today. You guys can tell me your ideas at the end. Today, we're just going to paint it. Okay, it's going to be your lesson on how to paint. All right, so let me flip this back. And, you know, if you have thoughts and suggestions and things you want to have me do, you just tell me, because you guys, you're the art director. You're directing me, okay? And, all right, so I'm going to set this down over here. So I'm painting it on a palette, wood palette. Have you guys ever painted on wood? What you're going to find with watching me paint on wood, it's going to, I don't want to frustrate you, but it is different. It's really different than painting on canvas. It's actually marvelous. It's very forgiving because it it kind of sucks in the water, and it just reacts differently. I don't know how to explain it, but I really do enjoy painting on wood. When I'm painting on wood, I tend to use craft paint. I don't know what it is. I just don't see the point in using my professional grade paints. So I used, as you may know, again, I got the camera backwards. I used Deco Art Chalky Finish. It's called Americana. Artifact is this color. I love this color. That's what I used for my background on this. And the reason I'm repeating this is in case we have, hopefully we get new members that are watching this at some later date and they would want to get caught up on all this. So anyway, here is this is about 16.5 by 24 inches. It's something that I assembled, and I talked about that in the first video. And I just painted, first of all, let me be a little bit more explicit with what I did in case you do paint this on wood, which I hope you do. You don't have to make a palette board. This is called a wood palette board. A lot of people do signs on these. You don't have to make this. You could buy something like this at Hobby Lobby, or they might have them at Michael's, or buy a single sheet of wood. And what I would suggest you do is that you pre-wet it a little bit, kind of like you would with watercolor paper. So let me get myself set up here, and I'm just gonna get started in just a minute. So if you guys have any questions on, okay, let me see what you're saying. Denise says a lot. Trish says I'd leave it off. You'd leave what off? Oh, the thing, the tail? Yeah, should I leave it off? And somebody asked me yesterday if this was for sale. We had talked a little bit about, I did a video, oops, sorry, I have you the wrong direction. I did a quick conversation the other day about, I would love for us to talk more about, you know, the whole steps of selling something. I'm just going to digress a minute. Somebody asked, and the reason why I bring it up is somebody asked me if this was for sale. And on Facebook when I shared this yesterday, which is why I'm glad I did paint in the tail. I was going to leave it, and then it would have looked kind of weird. And I thought, well, even though I'm going to probably resin and put stuff over this, I may as well show this on social media. You know, you always want to be thinking that way, right? You guys are. And so somebody asked about it, and so I private messaged her. I responded to her right away, private messaged her that it was $70, which I think is, you know, really reasonable. I've sold these for $75 typically, $70, $75, and it depends. And Then she asked if I was going to do a class on it. See, that's the problem that happens with me sometimes, is people, I think first she wanted to find out if it's around the same price point as an in-person class would be, which this would be $50 as an in-person class. So for me to only charge $20 more, I think was a really good deal, but she wasn't interested, and that's fine. I've got a couple more people interested anyway, and I don't even care if I don't sell it. But at any rate, what I did was I messaged her back right away. I told her the size and the price, and I just said, let me know if you're interested, because I have a couple other people asking, and if you want me to, just let me know. You want the bunny, Trish? Oh, it would be so expensive to ship. It really would. But anyway, so yeah. Sometimes people are just feeling you out and they're not really truly interested, or, the price is just too much. Maybe they have no clue. Don't be offended by that. Don't be hurt by that. Hold out for a realistic price. Get an idea of what other people are charging. I don't want to spend too long on this. Get an idea of what other people are charging. Now, granted, she's local. She wouldn't have had to pay for shipping, which is why I thought that was a reasonable price. I really can't ask for a lot. Some of you might be thinking, oh God, you should have asked a lot more. You really can't. The market just doesn't bear that for this. Some of you guys might be thinking that was too cheap. I don't know. Oh my goodness, Trish. Deco Art makes a fabulous chalky gesso in gray and several other colors. Keeps the paint from soaking into the wood. I saw your post about the chalky gesso. Yeah, you gesso on wood? Oh, and I just love deco art products. But anyway, okay. Yeah, wood has great texture. So anyway, let's start the lesson so I don't digress too much. Sorry about that. If you've got, let me just say one more thing. If you've got, I'd love for you to share, if you've sold something, which I have not sold much on Instagram, I'll tell you right now. I've had probably less than 7 sales on Instagram. I'm disappointed in that. I think that on Instagram, you have to really build relationship with people. I really am hearing that from other people that I talk to, other artists that I've literally asked, how do you get sales? I've reached out and asked them, and it's building relationship. You gotta talk to people in the DMs. You've got to. So make time for that in your day, every day. Get to know people. Anyway, but if you've had a good transaction, what was the flow? What were some things that were said? If you've got some specific advice that you could share, let's share that with each other, Or if there's something that you realize, oh, I probably shouldn't have said this. Maybe this turned them off. I don't know. The reason why I'm asking for all of us to share this is because it's so guessy. It's so like, I don't know what happened, And you don't know what happened when you get a sale for sure, and you don't know what happened when you don't get a sale. It's really hard to know. So I would love for us to share and talk about that, Anyway, I'm going to turn the camera down and get started now. If you would let me know, how many of you guys are actually going to be painting with me today? I'm just curious. Let me turn this up a little bit more. Maybe I could get more overhead. Hold on, sorry. If I do this, I'm directly overhead, and I got to put something here so my tripod doesn't fall over. Because I have the arm out like all the way. So I should have a dumbbell down here. That's what I should do. Oh, I do have some small weights. I've got some 1 pound weights I'm gonna stick on here. Yay, I don't know why I never thought of that. Oh, awesome. So now I have it directly overhead. Oh, sorry, forgot to flip it. Yeah, that's fine if you're just watching for now. Okay, perfect. So I drew this on, so here's what I did first. I used a 3/4 inch flat. I've got my big bucket of water over here to the right side of me, and I painted with water. I painted the first board, the second board, third board. Then I had to go back and re-wet the first board a little bit. Then I got out a larger, I think I used my chip brush, and I got my background paint and painted it in there. And so it is a watery, it's a little bit diluted, but you don't have to worry about diluting too much when you are, I think this is a fuzzy, when you are painting on a porous surface. The structure of the acrylic paint, even though it's watered down slightly, it's all right because there are fibers in the wood that help keep the structure of the paint. If you're painting on a sealed surface like canvas, you can't water down acrylic paint more than 30%. I believe it's around 30%. I mean, in other words, if it's 70% water, you're gonna have a problem. So you guys know that, right? You never wanna really water down acrylic paint like as if it were watercolor, because it simply won't hold up. Anyway, painted the background with this and let it dry completely, and then I drew up my my bunny. I did a video on that with you guys. I did a live showing you how to draw the bunny, and that's what I want you to do. That's how you should start out. Pre-paint your background, and then draw your bunny right on there. Now, I did mine in black with a charcoal pencil. You might want to do that. I used one of these. Or you could use white chalk. If you're working really small, I know that one of us, I believe Christine, is working really, really small, then you could use pencil. The problem is, if you wanted to paint a black background, you'd have to have a white pencil, which I don't believe she had. So just make sure that your pencil contrasts from your background, obviously, common sense. And I'm gonna put my hair up. Don't worry about the lines showing, and especially with chalk, if you aren't aware, I absolutely love using chalk to rough in a drawing on something like wood. You can also do it on canvas. I love it because I can edit my lines with a wet brush. So I can't really do that with the charcoal. So that's one reason why you might want to use white school chalk as opposed to charcoal. Although I suppose, let me just check. If I wet this and want to edit this line, I can, but I'm going to have a little bit of a mess. I'll have to do this and then dab it. Not that big of a deal, but with chalk, it really wipes right up. That looks weird because it's wet, I believe. So anyway, with chalk, you draw something and it's, you have several lines. Then you take your brush and go back in with a wet, clean brush and edit the line. In other words, with a wet brush, wipe up the chalk, wipe it off here, clean water, just like that, and you'll edit your lines and have a really nice, clean chalk drawing. That may be common sense to some of you, but some of you may not really have known that. Anyway, okay, so now we are going to get started painting. Let me kind of give you a global view of what I did, if I can remember. What the idea is, I want to work with my largest brush possible and get the major values in, and that's what I'm going to start off with you. I'm going to work dark to light, and I'm not going to put the bow in right away because I did have it in there and it threw me off. Hindsight 2020, I made my bow way too big. It's better to add it on later. It's easier to not have to paint around all this stuff. We're going to paint him without the bow. We're going to still use the collar, but we're not going to put the bow in right away. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to start on the bunny, and then we're going to paint in this oval, and then we're going to do the details while stuff is drying. Then we would do the lettering. Okay, so that's the approach. And let me just talk about colors that I used. I'm using craft paint. I'm using Oyster White by Ceramcoat. I love this paint. And then I'm using Plantation Rose by Plaid Folk Art. It's just what I thought looked like a really nice color with my particular gray. You know, I didn't want a stark white. You might want a stark, really bright white. I wanted... Oyster White is just slightly, it's just slightly not white, it's slightly yellow. It's a good cream color. And the Plantation Rose is a dusty pink. So if you want to use, if you don't want to go out and buy craft paints and you want to use the paints from our paint box, I'm going to show you really quick how to mix these colors. Since this is what I advocate working with our palette paint box. I thought, well, I should show them how to do this just in case. So real quick, I'm going to show you how to mix Plantation Rose and Oyster White. Okay, guys? You don't have to do this. You could go out and just buy those craft paints, or just buy a gray, a pink, and a white that work well together. Sometimes you're better off making your own because you can intentionally harmonize the pigments, and I'm going to show you what I mean in just a second. So let me get a white. Like, I could use raw sienna to harmonize these two colors, believe it or not. Where's my white? Hold on, sorry, forgot to get white. It's kind of watery. So sometimes I use this. I mean, I told you, I love Deco Art. So this is their big jar of, oh, I can't get it open. Titanium white. It's nice and juicy, which I kind of like sometimes. So I'm going to put some of that out on here. Oh, this might be too watery. Wow. I don't know why it's that watery. And you know, on your journal page, you could put a swatch of each of these colors so that you remember what you did. Let me get a journal real quick. Hopefully I got a page here I can use. Oh, I may not. All right, here's a page. And this is going to be our Happy Bunny. Especially if you're teaching and you want to remember what you used, you would want to do this for yourself. I'm gonna put a swatch of the colors that I used, and I'm gonna write down what it was. Because you never know when somebody might see this and say, oh, could you bake me one of those exactly like that? This happens all the time. It's the, I call it the mannequin syndrome. People, when they see something, when they see a mannequin, they see how pretty it is. That's when they want it, you know. Whereas if they were to tell you, I want a spring sign, but I don't know what I want, you know. It's much easier to have a sample for them. So here's my 3 colors, and putting that in there. I'm going to show you how to mix them out of your regular palette paints in just a second. from our palette box. So let me write down what these are. This is Deco Art. Chalky Finish. Artifact. This one is Folk Art. Plantation Rose. And this one is Ceram Delta, Ceram Coat, Oyster White. I love this color, by the way. Okay, so I did that real quick. Because to be honest with you, I know me. I'm not going to remember. I'm not going to remember specifically what color I used. School possible. You're Googling school. This color is Deoxazine Purple, and it totally dried out on me, and I had green paint on my brush. So I basically painted green on top of my Deoxazine Purple. I'm gonna redo my paint box pretty soon. I bought a new one. I need to do a fresh one. This is a paper towel. Oh, you don't even see it. This is a wadded up wet paper towel in here. Instead of putting the paper towel over the top, I've been doing this. Okay, so now let's mix this up. Now you guys know you can always use a paint knife to mix color, but it gets in the way of the rim of my styrofoam plate, which is what I typically use. So I usually mix paint with a brush. That's kind of looked down on in the fine art community, but oh well. So let's say you don't want to run out and buy these two craft paints. How would you make these? I want them to harmonize with each other, so I do see a little bit of yellow in both of them, and believe it or not, I believe it's raw sienna. I could be wrong. So I'm going to get my white first. Anytime I'm mixing a color, I always grab the white first. Get the white. Now I'm going to get a tiny bit of raw sienna. That might be too much. Raw sienna. And bam, that really might be my, actually that's too dark to be my oyster white. I put too much raw sienna. It doesn't match, but obviously I'm very close. Just add a little bit more. Actually even more. It also looks like it's not, I think the reason why I like the oyster white is it's not just warm, it actually has just a hint of gray in it, I believe. I could be wrong. I want to put the tiniest bit, let me put this right next to it. I mean, it's close. I want to put the tiniest bit of my medium gray in there, believe it or not. Call me wacky. Got a tiny, tiny bit. I'm going to wipe some of it off even. I mean a skosh. Is that a word? Skosh? In my mind, that little bit of gray cools it, neutralizes it just a bit. Makes it a more balanced off-white. So, oh, I could even put, it's pretty close. I could put a little bit more gray. More gray than I thought. Okay, so that looks pretty good. So that's how you would mix that. I'm going to put that on here. See how it dries. I might decide that it looks slightly different, but I still really like it. It does look slightly different. Maybe I would put a little more raw sienna in it. Yep, just a skosh more raw sienna, and there I think we have it. So I'm going to write that down. If I need to mix it from my paints, the mix is titanium white, plus tiny, I'm going to write tiny raw sienna, and a tiny bit of my medium gray. Okay, so that's how I made oyster white. I'm not always good at keeping notes. I've learned this the hard way. When you get a commission, and when somebody wants to commission you to do it, you don't want to have to rack your brain trying to remember what you did, you know, or if you get called to teach a class on something, like, oh man, I don't remember how I did that. You're gonna be happy you did this. So, okay, there's my oyster white. Now the plantation, I think it's the same colors that I'm gonna use with quinacridone pink, or if you don't have quinacridone red. If you don't have quinacridone red, which remember I screwed up one day and put quinacridone violet in my paint box, you could probably get away with, what's that acrylic paint color called that's rose, something rose, or medium magenta, you know what I mean, a magenta pigment. You could use a magenta. First you want to reach this level of lightness, so let's do that first. Let me get a regular magenta. So here's a Deco Art magenta, which I don't know, this looks kind of weird already. That's the trouble with craft paints, is they've pre-mixed something for you, and they might have used I mean, this is very cool. They've added a lot of blue in there already. I may not get there with this, but let's challenge myself and see if I could do it. So let me get a tiny bit of this. So obviously this is really dark. I'm not going to need a lot. Okay? It doesn't even look magenta, does it? It looks violet. It looks like a red violet, although magenta is a red violet. All right, so with a clean brush, you know, the same thing with quinacridone. Here's my quinacridone. My quinacridone violet looks like alizarin crimson next to that. That's okay. All right, so first I'm going to add a bunch. I'm going to get my white, get a bunch of white over here. Then I'm going to add a tiny bit of the medium magenta. And again, when you're mixing paint, when you're new to mixing paint, you start with a small amount. Learn to look at how much is on the tip of your brush. When you go grab it, really look at how much did you just pick up. You know, start out on the edge of the puddle and then work it in. A lot of people take a big old glob, put it right in the middle of the puddle, and you know, it's like, oops, it's way too much, and then they add a bunch of white to try to fix it. So what I'm saying is just slow down. Don't put it in the middle of your puddle, put it on the edge, and slowly press down and let that pink color that you picked up, let it slowly reveal itself, how much is in there in between the bristles. All right, so that actually looks like it might be really close to this value. I'm squinting and looking. This looks a little, you can see that this looks yellower, hopefully. This looks like it has yellow in it. Looks like it has this color in it. This looks very cool. So I'm actually gonna pick up a little bit of my raw sienna. And again, I grabbed a big glob. I don't know how much is in there, so I'm gonna put it on the edge of the puddle first, work it in there. And yeah, look at that. That really looks more like that. Maybe it's too peachy, so let me incorporate more in there. And I think we're there. I lucked out. So very often raw sienna is your friend. If you don't have raw sienna on your palette or a craft, if you don't have a craft bottle of raw sienna, I highly suggest you get it. So I think that's pretty good, really. It might be just a little bit darker, so maybe I'm going to do the same thing. Again, it's going to harmonize. I'm going to grab a tiny, tiny bit of my medium gray just to dirty it up a little bit, and that looks like that's it. We got it. We nailed it. All right, so there that is. That looks really, oh, it does look lighter. When I put it down on here, I realize it looks lighter. Now remember, acrylic paint dries darker. It looks a little light. Acrylic paint does dry half a shade to a shade darker, but I realize I need to make this darker. So I think it needs to be it needs to be pinker, needs all of the colors more. So I'm gonna put a little bit more of each. Again, edge of the puddle, gradually, don't go crazy putting in too much. Put a little of each color in. A little more yellow. And I try to push it out of my brush when I go to get another color. A little more gray. Let's try that now. Nope, didn't really make it pink enough. Let's get some more pink in here. I've got so much on there that it's blending. So hold on. So that's how you lift it up. You know, if you're trying to do a color swatch and it just keeps blending and blending, I think I still need it just a little darker. Hold on. A little yellower. That's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. Considering that I started off with that weird magenta, I bet if I put a little bit of this in there, it's gonna really look pinker. Yep. And that's why craft paints are so bizarre. You never know, you don't know what you're really getting because they've already pre-mixed stuff for you. So there, now I made it a little bit pinker using my my quinacridone violet. All right, so that's how we do those two colors. Okay, and then, oh, if I wanted to make that gray, let's see if my medium gray right out of the box matches that. No, it's a little too dark. So see there, I grabbed way too much white. Oh, maybe not. And did you know you can mix and hold your brush over something that you're trying to match? Just hold the brush right over it, and that's a good way to judge if you're matching it or not. Or hold it right over, you know, your subject that you're trying to match. So that looks fine. If I wanted it to harmonize with my background a little bit more, I could even put just a little bit of my pink in there. So here it is with a little bit of my pink in there, and I actually like it better. See the difference between the two? Automatically, this is going to be just a little more harmonious with my color. So anyway, enough about the paint colors. Let's get painting. Write down what this was. This was Deco Art. Magenta. And then I added a tiny bit of my Quinn Violet. This was titanium white plus medium gray. This one is this plus my pink mixture. So there you go. All right. Yay. So that's how you would mix those paint colors if you want to match my paint colors that I'm doing today. Or you could just make it a little bit easier and just go by these. Totally up to you. No judgment. All right. Let me set this aside. I'm not going to use these today, so I'm going to put them back in the bag. And let's get started. So I'm gonna set this here. So I'm gonna pull off a bunch of paper towels for myself. I waited to show you that I'm doing this because sometimes it's just easier to have a whole stack of paper towels ready. I learned this from Nancy Medina from taking her oil painting classes for so many years. She would have huge stacks of Viva paper towels ready to go, like big stacks of them, because with oil paint it gets so messy, and you just want to be in the moment and just grab a towel and clean it off your brush. You're constantly having to clean your brush. Let me see what notes you guys are saying. I'm sorry, yes, yellow oxide. What did I say? Yellow ochre? Yellow ochre and yellow oxide are practically interchangeable. They're very similar. Oh. Oh. Wait a minute, wait a second. Now I'm confusing myself. Is it raw sienna? Hold on, sorry. You know what? Yeah, you can either use raw sienna, yellow oxide, yellow ochre. They're all so similar, depending on the manufacturer. I don't remember unless I go look at my notes. I should know this by heart, if it's raw sienna or what it is. You could also have both of them if you want at your disposal. You could buy both, but yeah, either, don't worry about whether it's yellow oxide. I actually like yellow oxide, and I like raw sienna more than yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is old school, I guess, right? The plein air painters call it raw sienna. Yeah, so that's fine. All right, so let's get started on this. I'm gonna use this. You know, no sense in wasting this. And I'm gonna use my gray directly out of the jar. So, and I used the gray to mix in with these other colors. The other thing you're gonna need is some black, and I just got myself Mars black. We should have a talk one day about blacks. You know, they are slightly different. The Art Sherpa has a nice discussion about that if you ever want to Google the difference, but for now, let's just not get into that. But I'm using Mars black. It could be carbon black, any black really. We've got black in our palette box too. So you need a little bit of black because we're going to darken up our gray. And honestly, I would suggest that you, if you're doing a large painting, I would suggest that you have a medium gray mixed, you know, or use the medium gray from your palette box, or just go buy one of these, you know. There's probably, there is this one. This is French gray. This is just too cool though. It really is. It's way too cool. See the difference? You could take this and warm it up, but I would say start with a pre-mixed gray. It's going to make your life a lot easier. All right, so I'm going to start painting, and hopefully I'm going to get in the zone, and I'm really not going to talk too much. I hope that's okay. But I just want to get in the zone now. So I've got my another mixing palette over here, and I always start with a wet brush. I'm going to start with my large 3/4 inch flat. I've got a paper towel in my hand, and trying to remember what I did. Let me put my sample over here to glance at if I need to. Now, I'm remembering when I started, I was thinking about what Tammy said, and I was thinking about doing a taupey bunny, taupey brown. Now you could do that. You could use raw umber in your mix. However, I just didn't like the way it started to look. It just didn't go with this gray. So that would be a whole different palette of color, to be honest with you. And if you want your bunny to be more on the taupey browny side, then you're going to want your gray to also have a little bit of raw umber in it, if that makes sense. Okay? Work out your palette of colors on here. You can see that these go together really well. Do the same thing. If you're going to do a taupey bunny, taupey brownie bunny, just make sure you work it out on here. Maybe you would have the raw umber mixed in with your white instead of the raw sienna, you know? All right, so I'm going to, I'm just going to, I'm going to need more of this. Let me grab this. Actually, I don't think I even used much white, to tell you the truth. I think I used my oyster white as my white. I'm going to get some gray on here. I'm almost out of this. Love this color. And I love chalk paint, you know. I really do. Oops. Okay. Let it roll. This thing wants to roll everywhere. So I'm gonna start out with kind of getting it wet. Kind of getting it wet in here. I'm not going to worry about painting over my my bow. Just not going to worry about that. Getting this a little bit wet, do some wet in wet blending, right? And sometimes this is a warm-up, and this is why I would love for you to do it in a large size like this. It's a lot more forgiving. So now, what I want to do, this shoulder over here, it's kind of light, you guys. And the head too, it's kind of light. It's basically going to stay the color that we've got from the background. And in fact, you know, we're gonna add little sweeps of light to it. So I'm just gonna, for now, put a little bit of that in there. I mean, I can always paint over this. Turning my brush sideways. Kind of softening this charcoal line that I got here, just smearing it. I'm not worrying about this line because I'm gonna paint this, I'm gonna paint the negative shape anyway. So now I'm gonna get my dark, I'm gonna get my black, bring this over here and start mixing up a darker, you know, a darker value. And I could even hold this up over this, get an idea. You know, and I'm going to start putting that in here. And I'm looking at the direction. Like this is mid-tone. Light, mid-tone. It's going to get a little darker at the bottom. For the most part. And you can see this is drying out already. So I'm going to grab my medium. I didn't wipe off my brush. Grab my normal gray. Blend that into this wet edge while I've got it wet. I'm using my brush the fat way. I could turn it and use it the skinny way. See what you like better, see what happens if you push down hard, what variation starts to happen. So you get very soft blends. Let's get a little bit darker now. Get a little more black. Now black's very powerful. Don't go putting it in the middle of the puddle and wind up with a big, way too dark, you know, puddle. So down here it's where it's really darker. And I want to blend that up into this wet edge. And I want to look at my reference and look at the direction of those hairs as I'm doing this. Turning my brush the skinny way. His spine kind of curves like this. Now imagine right here, his spine goes up between his ears, kind of goes down around like this. This is his spine, right about here. Very loose S. Can you see it? Like right here is his spine. Let me get my dark in here, since we know this is really dark. Really, really dark. May as well get that in there. And right in here, this is all super dark. And it even goes up on his ear. And I'm kind of loosely, my brush is very dry, and I'm just going to loosely outline this really quick, not even worrying about it too much. Just bam, bam, bam. Loose little outline. It's also a little bit dark right here, getting like a medium darkish tone. I can paint over this later, kind of getting the scruffy neck hairs in there. So it's nice and dark. This is all drying really quick. Really, really dry in here, but that's okay. I know how to remix this if I need to. And it's okay if it's a different gray. If it's not as dark or darker, all the better. You want variety. Eventually we're gonna squint and look at it, stand back at it, and make sure that overall it matches our sample. We're gonna look at the big picture before we start getting into any details. That's something that you learn to do so that you don't waste your time. Don't get into the details. And Nancy used to say, don't hang the curtains before you've painted the walls, or something like that. Actually, I don't remember what she said. Don't get married to it. That was another one she'd say. We all have our little cute fun sayings that we would say. You know, don't get too committed to your painting before it's really ready, because it may not be good enough. There might be some darker darks you could put in there that are really going to adjust the whole spectrum of darks. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just laying in, now I need to get more gray. Very dry brush. See, what I like about it is that the brush gets dry real quick, and I kind of like what that does. Now up here, it's going to be spotty strokes. I'm actually just dabbing this right now, and because of the texture of the wood, I'm able to get away with that cool look there. You're not going to be able to do that on a canvas. All right, so I ran out of medium gray, and you can kind of tell. So, but that's okay. We always paint dark to light. So I'm doing a bad thing. I got a dirty brush, and I'm dipping into my jar, getting more gray, but that's okay. If that were a nice new jar of paint, I wouldn't have done that. So here's more medium gray, and I can come in here now and maybe change this just a little bit. Looking at my reference, and just right now we're blocking in. We call this blocking in. And I'm looking for values being accurate and direction of strokes being somewhat accurate. In just a second, I'm going to stand back and see how I did. So this is a very light stroke I'm doing. It's almost tickling the surface. This I can tell looks way too dark, so I'm going to add, now when I go to lighten it, I'm going to add my oyster white to lighten it. Sometimes I'll push my brush down to get more gray out of it. Let's see what happens if I put that in there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. You know, and really painterly painters would just use, I'm holding my brush, I'm changing the hold on my brush, holding it looser. Let's see if I can get away with just using this big brush. If anytime you can get away with a big brush and bam, get it done, that's a bonus, right? But I'm going to show you some other techniques. So I'm not going to get too involved in this. Maybe this medium tone is what I'm going to have on the face. I'm pretty sure this is going to work. Yep. So this part of the face is a lighter plane than the cheek. There's almost a line that comes down from the eye. I don't know if you see that right there. And then, so this is just a slightly different plane. So I made it just a little bit darker and I'm delineating it from the rest. I'm dabbing now just to get some texture on there. And that actually doesn't look too bad. And I could even take my brush like this and get a little cool texture in here. That might actually work for me, you know, with these kind of weird, this kind of weird bristle action that's going on. Sometimes that makes a cool texture, or a good texture. Hold it up closer for you. Can you guys see that? All right, so let me stand back from this. That doesn't look too bad, actually. I'm stepping back, looking at my work to squint down at it and evaluate, do I have a good range of values? Does it have form? Can I, you know, can I tell what it is? Yeah, I think so. Oh, who's WW, Tammy? His name is Charlie. Don't hang the curtains before you build the house. That's it. Okay, so now I know this is darker down here on purpose, and part of the objective, it just worked out this way. Keeping this a little bit darker is going to help the tail really, really pop when we put the tail in. So make sure you get this dark enough, not black. It's not black, okay? Look, here's our black compared to this, you know? Look at the difference in these values. I wonder if I have my grayscale. You know, my value finder. So I don't know, do you guys have a value finder? This is a great tool to have. I put a baggie over it and hang it up so I don't lose it. I hang it on a hook over there. So black being that, and even this doesn't match my black, you can see. But you know, I'm coming down into, you know, a threes and twos. I'm not even, this isn't even solid black down here. These are twos, threes, fours, fives. Yeah, they're all on this side of the value scale. We're using values from 5 to 1. Well, not even 1. From 5, 4, 3, and 2. That's what we're using, if that helps you guys at all. So, and you can buy these on Amazon, and I highly recommend you get it. I really do. A lot of this looks like about a 3 and a 4. All right, so what I want to do now, I want to use my scruffy brush, and I know this might be a little bit scary. And again, we're not married to this yet. We are, you know, this is just blocking in, okay? We warmed up and got a feel for how we might get some fur texture, and we're kind of getting it, but not totally. Now, I don't want to have to, I'm just too lazy to have to go use a liner brush and paint in all these lines. There's just no way. I used to be that painter, and honestly, I stopped painting because I never finished anything and I felt defeated. So you gotta, you gotta find what works. Now, and that might be who you are. That might be what is very fulfilling and pleasing to you, to be that realistic and precise. That's not, for me, it's just, it becomes too tedious. And I have a feeling none of you guys are really like that either. So instead of painting in, all this detail with a small brush, I'm going to try and find a quick way, a quick technique to give me this quality. And so some of it happens wet and wet, and some of it happens wet on dry, okay? And that's what I did here with my chip brush. You can kind of see it. If you really look, you can kind of see the chip brush. This is just a 1-inch scraggly chip brush. Now, when you first start using one, pull the hairs out. Be rough with it and pull the hairs that are really loose, let them fall out. But that's what I wound up using. That's how I did this. And so I'm going to show you. All right, so keeping this here, push this up here. All right, so I feel like I could have a little bit more dark values in here. I lost it a little too much. So that's what I'm going to put back in. I'm squinting. I'm seeing these values here I don't have here. With acrylic painting, you got to make sure you have enough dark to see your lights. Otherwise, you won't get the contrast that you need. So that's what we're going to do right now. I was worried about the big picture. Now I'm honing in a little bit closer, going, okay, I need to do a little bit more. But I can do that with a smaller brush. And you could use a 1/2-inch flat for this. Well, on this size, or a round brush. So I always try to use the biggest brush possible for the job. So I'm going to try using a 1/2-inch flat and see, it probably should work in there. So I still have some of this, and I don't know if that's just too dark. And this is just a dry brush right now. And actually, that's not bad. I tend to do a lot of dry brush. It just seems to be a natural inclination for me. To be honest with you, a lot of people in my classes just didn't really get it. We all have our natural tendencies, our natural gifts, or whatever you want to call it. There's going to be things that you realize you can do that other people can't quite do like you can, and that's okay. I don't know, honor that when that happens, I guess is all I can say. So I think it's just patience, and that you just keep trying, with anything. If you keep trying long enough, eventually, you're gonna get it. Right, guys? It's nothing all that special. It's just that I kept trying. All right, so I got that a lot darker, which kind of is going to give that foreshortening feel. It's almost like there's a little bit of a hump right here. Light is hitting right here, which is good. That's going to explain the form of his, the hump of his back, so to speak. So let me get a little bit of that going on in here. Just a bit right here. So this is dry brush. Try your hand with the dry brush and see what happens. And then we're gonna do some wet stuff now. So I'm gonna go to my scruffy brush. I'm gonna wet it first, this brush. And I'm gonna dip in what I've got here. So I had water on my brush first. I'm loading it. And I'm gonna let the bristles separate like that. You want that. And at first it's gonna feel scary, but you just lightly whisk this on here. Try it this way and try it this way. Turn the brush different ways. So that's kind of watery, but if I tilt my head to the side, I can actually see that. Now, if it's the same value, I'm not gonna see it. So I might have to get it a little bit darker in order to see it, and that's working. Let me get a little more black. So it's a matter of playing around with having the brush loaded with the right amount of paint, the right amount of pressure, you know, it's a whole, all of that. And you just have to let yourself get comfortable with it. And that's the reason why I'm saying if you are working larger, it's a little bit easier almost. Let me get some more black on here. Trying to hold the brush loose. Keep looking at your reference. These are just light dabby strokes. Here they're really short, so I'm just dabbing. Here they're medium longer. This part I don't want to get this, the dark I'm using right now is too dark for this light area, I think. But I can paint over that with my light paint. So this isn't bad. Let me show you closer. It's not bad. We're getting there. Again, I put the darks in first. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little bit more on the face. I'm going to let that dry and see how it looks when it's dry, because acrylic paint dries a little bit darker. So I'm going to see how that looks and come back to it. And I like to bounce around from area to area when I'm painting anyway. So I'm going to set this brush aside and go to my number 8 round, and I'm gonna do a little bit of work on the face. Well, actually, you know what I think I'm gonna do? I think I'm gonna do the oval now, because when you put that light oval in next to this, it's gonna change all of these values. It's gonna make them look even darker. So let's do that first. Yeah, let's do that first. So I need to sketch that in. And I could sketch that in with, actually I'm just gonna draw it on with my brush. So I'm gonna go back to my big 3/4 inch flat brush and clean it out pretty good. You know, this big brush. And I'm gonna get my oyster white. On here and get this in here. I'm going to let it have a soft edge where it meets the bunny. I'm going to kind of go into his neck a little bit. Oops, I picked up some wet gray, or I picked up some charcoal or something. All right, so let's see if we can get this oval in here. It starts around here. Just trying to see that shape in here. And sometimes I'll paint through an object, you know, just to make sure it's right. We can always paint over that. I mean, that they really do teach you to draw that way. Draw through an object. It's just always going to work out better. You know, I'm painting into my bunny. It's okay. You can fix that later. I'm going to paint more layers anyway, you know. So actually that's kind of cool. It actually looks like an egg. See, I started to get up too high up here. You want those ears to violate the oval, otherwise it's going to be a tangent. So it's okay to paint into that bunny. It's okay to create a soft edge. I think it's actually better. Now I'm just kind of evening up my layer of paint here. The nice thing about painting on wood is it dries really quick, and I actually really like that. Very dry brush, but I like this effect I'm getting. Okay. Does my oval look a little off on this side? I think it is. Need a little more paint. Oh, oops, I dipped into pink. Oh, crap. Well, maybe that'll be a happy accident. I don't know. Actually, I kind of like it. Yeah, I don't mind it at all. No, now it is off. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my gray and fix that later. Getting my background color. Went a little too far with that, but I can go over that. Well, maybe it's not that bad, I don't know. Fix this gray right here. So that's why, because I have this pre-mixed gray, it is so nice to be able to just use that pre-mixed gray to fix stuff like this. That's why I suggest you get, you know, a pre-mixed gray. All right, so now we're going to use the scruffy brush again. And, well, actually, no, I said I was going to do some work up there, but I decided to put in my oval first. So I like how that's looking. And I don't like right there, I went in a little too deep. So I'm going to move you guys maybe a little bit closer for this. See if that's showing better. Hold on, I'm going to get something to lift up just a little bit more. Sorry, trying to get it a little closer. Okay, just looking at your comments. Okay, I think I finally have it in a pretty good position. All right, so I'm gonna put my darkest darks in. You always wanna make sure you have your darkest darks in because everything is, can you guys hear me okay? Since I turned differently. Let me know that you can hear me okay with the camera turned a little differently. But you always want to make sure you've got those darkest darks in first because it sets the pace, the tone for all of the other values. All right, so I'm going to go back. Now maybe this time I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'm going to use this. I tend to like these liner brushes for getting you know, into more tight areas. So I'm going to grab this liner brush here and I'm just going to paint the whole thing black. And then I'm going to do this to get those eyelashes. This is really dark in here. I think I had it that dark already, but I'm just reestablishing just a little bit more. Right here, this is pretty important to get this shape of the ear. There's going to be just a couple of tufts that are really super dark in here. So you can be a little bit abstract with, you know, painting these super dark little areas in here. And then there's this line here that's kind of important. So you want this V in here. You want a couple little tufts indicating that this is fur that gets moved around or whatever. Sometimes I'll just use my finger to soften, you know. Now I'm going to do a little bit more of a sweeping line with this brush. So I need it loaded a little bit more and, oh, pardon me, I got to get more gray. Thanks for letting me know you can hear. Okay, so I'm getting more gray on my palette. Keep running out of that gray. Okay, good. So I got more gray on my palette and I want a really dark. Let me fix this. It's too much. When you got a glob like this in your ferrule, you want to get that out of there because that really affects everything that happens. Getting a little bit more black. Adding a touch of water. So the more you paint, the more you know the feel. You know, the more you know if it's wet enough and all of that. So looking right at my reference now, I'm just going to paint these tufts in here, just a couple tufts like that. That may not be light enough, so that's okay. Let's get like a lighter version, just a little bit lighter. I mix and then I twirl. So you see how those are tufts of hair? Let's get just a little bit lighter. This time I dipped in just a little bit of my oyster white to add to this gray that's on my brush. And I'm just going to come in, I'm going to hold my brush loosely, and I'm just going to come in and start laying this in, see what this looks like. I don't know if it's going to be the exact right value or not. I got a very dry brush. I want that, you know, I want a soft edge. Very, very dry brush. Letting it happen, just letting it happen. So it's just kind of like a mottled dry brush. Cleaning my brush out. I don't want any dark to seep out. And I'm starting to see that actually right here it's lighter. Here and here it needs to be lighter than this part. So I had it wrong. So I'm getting lighter, mixing it with gray. Let's see how this looks. Oh, and this is also over here. Squinting, looking at my reference. You know, and it might be a slow process discovering the exact right value. You know, my brush is dry and floppy, but that's okay. I'm letting the texture happen. You can use your finger to soften sometimes. You know, back away, look at it. Sometimes you can even scratch through it to get little hairs while it's wet. I'm going to add a little water and do just like a glaze on this part to get this just a little bit lighter and softer. A little bit more water. I just really want this part to stand out, you know, by the eye. Getting this really light right there so that when I put that eyelash back in, it's gonna really look nice. So I got this shape here is lighter. Now I'm gonna go back, fix that black that I messed up. I'm going to use a lighter, there's like a half circle here. In the eye. Soften this edge. I wiped my brush off and I'm softening. Blending that just a little bit more. When that dries, I'm going to put my highlight right there in the middle of that black area. And that's probably, you know, pretty good for now. Soften this just a little bit. So to soften, you could just put like a watery glaze. All right, so let's lay in the ears a little bit. I'm dying to put that highlight on. Okay, let me do my highlight. So for my highlight, make sure you get a nice, you gotta really load your brush carefully. Get a nice bead of paint on your brush. Oops. Shoot, just lost you guys. Oh, I don't know why I'm not able to see comments anymore. What is going on? Huh. Okay, I don't know why I can't see comments, guys. Sorry, hold on a second. Shoot. Oh. Okay, now I see them. All right, so that's good for now. Yeah, we're gonna do the ears a little bit. So the ear has a few different things going on. You wanna have yourself at the ready that you've got your mid-tone gray, you've got some dark and some light standing by, because you're gonna on the fly mix a few different things, but we're also gonna add a little bit of our pink in. So here's my pink on my palette. You guys can see this palette? No, not really. So I'm gonna get a little bit of pink. I'm gonna mix that in with this yellowish color and just see what this looks like if I put this in here. Add a little bit of water. This is so dry. So it's just a little bit pinker. I don't know if that's the right value. I'm just looking at the pink right now. Yeah, actually that's not a bad value. I just added a little bit of pink to my oyster white that had a tiny bit of gray in it. Now I'm gonna make it a little grayer, but also a little pinker. So I grabbed more pink, more gray. I'm gonna get it a little bit darker here. Right, then we're gonna get even darker. We might need to start adding, yeah, I mean, this as dark as this is gonna get, so I have to add black because I'm just not able to get it dark enough. So there's I added black. This is probably, well, I was going to say it's probably a good value. I think this value that I have for the outline is a little too dark. But let's put some of this on this ear now too. See what it looks like. Using my regular gray, my pre-mixed gray to fix this part. I'm realizing this tip is way too fat. So I'm going to try to fix that. I'm going to get my oyster white. I mean, it really just comes to like a point. That's way too hard of a line, but I'll soften it later. Soften it with my finger a little bit now. Then this part is gotta get rid of that black. Okay, let's get that to a point over there. Sorry, that was off camera. I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. Hold on, readjusting. Sorry about that, Patsy. So sorry about that. I just now realized that. Okay, so now, oh, it's still cut off. All right. Is it better now? Okay, I think I got it now. Sorry about that. Yeah, sometimes I just feel like I need chalk. I need to draw it. So that's what I'm gonna do now. Okay. All right, so let's need a little more yellow on here, a little more oyster yellow. And okay. I'm using a little oyster yellow with my gray on my round brush. I don't know if I'm going to like this color or not. So my brush is very dry. I'm trying to be loose and just do strokes here so that it's nice and soft. I think their ears are probably very soft. I've never been around rabbits too much. I remember one friend had a rabbit and tried to bite me, so I was kind of turned off about rabbits. So I don't like how strokey that is. So I'm just going to, well, let me rinse my brush out. It's also a little too light. Get some gray with water and just kind of paint over that whole thing a little bit. Wipe my brush off. It was too wet and loaded, so now it's drier. And I'm just gonna kind of scruffy blend this in here. And then use my finger. Because I really want, it really is a pretty soft blend in there. Right about here is where it becomes a mid-tone. So you don't want to blend too much. So when you squint, that's how you see that where the mid-tone gets a little darker. Don't over blend. Just a little darker. And I'm going to use this little slightly darker color to just give a little hint of an outline. Of the ear. And I think that's what I want over here. That's too dark. I may have made this ear a little bit too big, but I think it still works. So if a lot of this is evaluating values. These are those really short hairs, so I'm doing short dashy strokes. With a pretty dry brush. You can clearly see the light and darker areas there. All right, that's good enough, I think. All right, so I might bring some of this light color, light-ish color down on the face a little bit more. It's the oyster white mixed with my gray. And I just want to kind of, when I compare this to this now, oops. I mean, this is actually too much of a bump right there. It's just so slight, that little angle there. So I'm going to repaint that. I'm just going to lay this value in here, and then I'm going to repaint my oyster color. This value is also right here. Very dry brush. Try scratching through. That's one technique you could use, the scratching through technique. The nice thing about wood is I can get that texture of the wood in here. Look how cool that is. By just wiping over with a dry brush. This, of course, is killing my brush, but that's okay. So now let me get a clean brush, and I'm just gonna kind of take that tip of that nose down a little bit. Clean brush, clean oyster white. I have this seam of the wood here that I'm dealing with too. Oh, that might look a little too weird. Yeah, I'm not so sure I like that. Let's see. Come back in just a little. Now sometimes if you're looking too much at one thing, you got to back up and look at the whole picture. And when I look at the whole picture, it looks fine. All right, so now this looks a little too mottled or something. I'm going to soften that. Really softened that, and then I kind of mushed that. It's okay, I can go back with my oyster white on a clean brush and come back in, you know, and redefine this as much as I need to. You know, you can even paint little hairs in there if you wanted to. Am I being too detailed here, you guys? Probably. But I can actually pull those little hairs in there, you know. Look how cool that looks. You know, pulling that background in there. Is that showing up? I'm gonna wait for it to show up on here. That's kind of blurry. All right, so I'm gonna put the I'm gonna put it back down on the table now, the board. And we're pretty close, you guys. Pull out here. We're pretty close. We've done the bulk of the work. Really, all that's left is coming back in with our light hairs now, you know? So we're gonna do that with our scruffy brush. This is the place where don't freeze up. Don't freak out like, oh, I could ruin it all right now if I don't do this just right. You can use a somewhat, oh, look, I just dripped water. You can use a somewhat watery mix for this. And, you know, if you mess up, you can wipe it off. Like this is completely dry. It's like a save as. Do a save as, you know, let it dry. And then you can, you know, come back and paint your wispy, scruffy brush, light, you know, light strokes on there. Now, you could, if you really wanted to, I mean, and you know, we're looking at all this, right? So you know you're ready if you can see that it's got form. If you can see that you've got mid-tone values in here, darker over here. When you put on, this is the icing on the cake, when you start putting these light hairs on here, it's going to look real. It's going to look so good. You know, But the thing is, we don't want to, and there are some, you know, pet portrait painters that will, you know, painstakingly paint in, you know, all those little hairs like that. But oh my goodness, I just don't have the patience for that myself. But I would say before I get too far, I want to put the bow in. Okay, so let's do that. I'm just gonna use this brush still. I guess I really love my liner brushes, huh? And so we started over here. And again, this doesn't have, don't paint this with a hard edge. Let it be rough, because that's gonna, it's like some of the hairs are going over the collar. So let the edge of it, don't paint a straight hard line of this. That's gonna ruin it. You know, that's not gonna look real or right. So somewhere along here is where the bow starts. So I'm gonna draw the bow in, okay? And I think I'm gonna use my chalk. Of course, that's wet. So here's the key to the bow. You want the knot, draw the knot first. I'm gonna put the knot right on, like so. His imaginary spine is right here. His spine goes from here. Well, maybe, you know, this is his imaginary spine. So the bow of the knot is right about here. You know, and of course it kind of goes out like this and this. This and that. I can't really see it on that side. And I'm going to actually use that spine line that I drew to be my ribbon. That's going to help us subliminally say, you know, this is his spine. Okay, so I did that in chalk. So now I'm going to go ahead and paint that in. And I'm just going to paint it all in with a solid color. And paint it a little bit smaller than you think you need to make it, because, again, from seeing people paint in person for many, many years, we tend to make things get bigger as we paint them. We really do. We just, especially if we're painting more than one layer of something, by the time you get to the third layer, the thing is huge. You know, so we're just going to paint this whole thing in kind of solid. And it's okay if we have to do a second layer. That's what happens. I need more of this paint. Okay, Denise, have a great weekend. Oh, I'm glad you're loving it. Thank you, you guys. I love doing this. I love having you here with me. I just feel so blessed. This is the coolest thing that we can do this, isn't it? I swear. How awesome. I mean, I know in a lot of ways it's a horrible world we live in, but in a lot of ways it's a great world too, right? I mean, I probably could look up a reference of a bow. This probably isn't perfect, but you know, I think it's okay. Paint's kind of thick. Yeah, and I'm still debating if I might if I'm gonna put beads on this, or I don't know, you know, I don't know what I'm gonna do yet, you guys. You guys have to tell me what you think I should do. How do you like this so far? Is there anything that you see that I should do to this, or that you want me to do to this, or show you? Who's painting along? Anybody? Wish I could see that. Making this just a little bit lighter here. So a very subtle trick, I don't know if you caught it, that I did. Since this is near the eye, you could put this is just being really, I'm probably being a little ridiculous, but with a really dry brush, you could put a really subtle reflection of the pink in the eye. So really dry brush, just a really subtle bit of pink in the eye. I don't know, that's just me being crazy. All right, so that looks pretty good, right? And again, I can edit this chalk line. Once this is dry, I can totally get rid of this chalk line. You'd never know it was there. Isn't that the coolest thing? Can't do it on by the bow yet. Okay, what else do we need to do? So now I can put my scruffy highlight lines in. I might go over the bow a little bit. That's okay, I'll repaint the bow. So don't make the bow too perfect right now. Maybe right here I'll make the bow a little bit darker. So I'll add just a little bit of gray to my pink. Ever so slightly. We're gonna paint the form of, actually, I don't know, do you guys want me to do, I could put glitter on the bow. Maybe even this. What if I put this on the bow? Would that be too much? How would that look? That might be kind of cool. All right, so we're gonna put some light, we're gonna put the light on here now, the light fur. So you just want to prepare yourself a plate of the right washy mix of color, the right value and all that good stuff. Now look what I did. I left my brush, I left my scruffy brush with the black in it. What I like to do, I like to have a big bucket of water. Look at this, how bad I am. A bucket of water that I could just throw my brushes in when I need to switch brushes. So do yourself a favor, use a big old bucket. You can also have a second cup of water. So right now I'm going to do my best to clean off all of this black. And again, point the bristles down and pinch. You know, point the ferrule down. The ferrule acts as a cup. Point it down, pinch. All right, so I'm going to prepare myself a plate of a lighter color, and I'm gonna make it just a little bit watery in case I screw up. Water is my friend. So this is too messy of a plate. I'm gonna probably, you know, you don't want paint colors that you've already got mixed to cause you problems. Maybe the best thing would be to get a fresh new plate for this. And I'm saving my whitest white. I have not used white anywhere on here except the highlight of the eye. I am not going to use white highlights. I don't think I used white highlights at all on the bunny. I used oyster white. Okay, so that's what I'm going to use. I'm going to get my oyster white here, and I'm going to mix a tiny bit of gray with it too. So oyster white. The nice thing is I have the option to come back and put white on if I want to, maybe right here where it's really, if I need to establish more form, I could do that. But to be honest with you, I don't want to do that. I want my whitest white and my darkest dark, my blackest black, to be the focal point, which is the head. If I start sprinkling a lot of detail-y white elsewhere, then my eye is not going to know where the center of interest is. So it's kind of something to think about. It's something to think about. You don't want to go too crazy with that. You know, part of your job as an artist is to simplify what you are seeing and use your artist license, your artistic license, to make the eye go where you want it to go. So, okay, I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. Right? A little bit of water. Now, this is not gray yet, so I don't know. Let's see what happens if I just use this. Let's just see what happens. Trying it off a little bit more. Kind of works better to turn it this way. It's a little bit wet. You can dab it off. If it looks like too much, dab it off. Just literally pounce it on a paper towel. Now I'm lifting up between the strokes. Don't just scrub, because then that's too much. Really, really light. I'm barely touching. Here I touched too much. Get a little bit more. Really short strokes here. Don't press down too much. So don't worry about these where you made it too thick. That's where we can come in with our detail-y brush and break that apart. So don't worry about that. That's not a mistake. So here, if you do a more concentrated paint now, it shows up a little bit more. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Trish says no to the pink glitter eye. That's funny. Okay, so now let's say you've got some areas where you just got a little too heavy-handed and it's too much. We're just going to break this open now. This is where you'd go in with your liner brush and use a mid-tone gray mix to just break that apart a little bit. So let me show you how to do that. Yeah, I'm liking this bunny. You know what, you guys? This is my first time painting a bunny. I don't think I've ever painted a bunny. They're fun. And when you guys said bunny, I gotta admit, I had to kind of gear myself up for this. I'm like, bunny? Oh man, how am I gonna paint a bunny? All right, so I'm getting some gray. All right, that's gonna be way too light still. What am I thinking? So let me get some black. I have no idea if this is gonna be the right value or not. So I'm gonna first hold it over here. It actually looks not too bad. I'm basically holding it over and picturing what would that look like if I painted that on there, and it actually looks like it would work. So now I'm gonna be painting lines. When you're painting lines, you wanna use a liner brush, and you want it to be juicy and loaded. Juicy meaning you might add a little bit of water so that it really flows off your brush. You fully load it, and you twirl against the lip of the plate. You got a nicely loaded brush, and you can paint a ton of lines. So you want to make sure you're in a comfortable body position. So this is where you could, you know, totally turn your canvas to suit the comfort of your body. And then if you hold your brush at a 90-degree angle, just the tip of the brush touching the surface, and you know, and swipe, you're going to get a really thin line. As soon as you angle it a little bit, it's gonna be a little bit thicker. So I'm starting over here where it doesn't matter much, just to test it out. If it looks too harsh, like a thumb hole sticking out, then it's too dark. Then just go back and lighten it. That might be a little too dark. That's okay, I can paint over that in a jiffy. In a jiffy? Yeah, that's too dark. So my brush is a little drier. I'm gonna come over here and just break some of these masses apart a little bit. Reload. So I'm painting a dark stroke inside of a light area. Change your angle, change the length of these strokes. These are longer. Remember, the strokes are longer as we get back here. Over here, mid-back, they're foreshortened, so they would just be shorter strokes. Does that make sense, you guys? I hope. I'm gonna make a couple of my strokes go off. That's the fun of doing fur, right? I can come in here and do just a few, like actually right here, it's dark. Now that I got the bow in, I might want to put a really nice dark right there to really accentuate the bow being there. So again, this is going to help bring attention up here. A few short strokes here and there. Now I can do the same thing with my light. You can do this with a dark, a mid-tone, and a light. But I wouldn't go crazy with it. I would use my artistic license, and I would decide, you know, you're in control. Where do I want to bring the viewer's eye? What is my intention here? I really want them to notice, you know, the bunny's face. So this is just a little bit more, you know, detail that we're adding in here and there. I'm not going to do detail all over. I don't need to. This isn't a photograph, you know. Just a few. Okay, and that's probably enough. All right, so what do you think? Is there anything I need to do to this? You guys still here? You guys are still here. My goodness, thank you. I might do a couple lighter hairs in here. Oops. I don't want to bring too much attention to the ear. All right, so I think, let's see if you guys have any questions, and I think I'm going to end this here for today, and then we're going to come back and do, thank you for the bunny. The bunny eye is awesome. The other ear needs some hairs too. This one? This one, we're not looking inside the ear, but it needs more of something, something, huh? Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe I'll outline the ear a little bit more. Yeah, it looks a little too, it's too obvious what I'm doing there. You are right. Thank you. Let me fix that. I think, well, let's see if I could use this brush. So I'm going to use a watery gray and oyster white mixture. And I need to look at this a little bit more. So I'm just going to break this line with short strokes. All right, and then I'm going to go a little bit darker. I see what's going on. I need to make this lighter. So that's a little bit too delineated. So now I'm just gonna kind of mush it a little bit. I don't know what other word to use. You can, to soften, if something's too delineated, you could add a glaze on top of it. Or you can just kind of paint over it and just, I call that mushing it, you know, just kind of, I'm just softening this. It got a little too linear in there. I don't want that much detail. And the other thing is probably that happened because I had too fine of a brush, and that's there you go. That's why you don't want to use too good of a brush, you know, for what you're doing, because you can really make too much attention there. So, and that's why for me the dry brushing tends to really work. So I'm going to come back in with a dry brush and really dark. I just don't get a good point here is the problem. Hold on, I'm trying to get just the right. I think the problem is I don't have my gray. Here's my gray. And that's the other thing. Sometimes when you're at the tail end of a project, and you're running out of the right color paint, and you're running out of steam maybe, and all this stuff, don't shortchange yourself. This is the really important part of a painting. If you need more, put more out on your palette. Don't be cheap with your supplies. That's something I've seen so many times. You know, it's like, well, I know I'm going to stop painting pretty soon. I didn't want to put more out. Well, you're going to ruin the whole thing. If you don't have the right, you know, the right color, the right value, and you skimp, you know, you're gonna really regret it. You could screw the whole thing up. You know what I'm saying? So maybe just take a break and come back to it and do it right, you know. This brush works better is what I just realized. Gives just the right amount of detail on there. All right. All right, what else, you guys? What do you think? Should we call it a day? I could probably wipe that off. So I'm just using watery, a little bit of pressure, a little water, and that all, oh, the hair, that all really comes up. If you're gonna dab at it, you gotta dab very lightly to get that chalk off of there. So I might have that a little too soft. I'm gonna come back with fresh eyes and decide if I wanna finesse the edge. I still need to do the lettering and, you know, this edge on here, but so we'll come back and do that. If I have the steam to do it later today, I will. Or I'll do it tomorrow morning with you guys. Does anybody have a preference? That looks better now? Okay. And that's the other thing, you know, I'm going to turn the camera up. Hi. That's the other thing, you know, sometimes you want to just, like I did it with this laying down. Hold on. Sometimes you want to take it and look at it, you know, look at it standing up. I look at it and I realize I don't like these dark, they look too dotty right there. You know, I didn't notice that before. I don't know if it was because of the perspective or what it was. Look at it from a distance. When I look at it from a distance, I see a shape right here that I don't like. And that's okay. That's what's going to happen. This is the point where what you would do is you would take a picture. Excuse me. You would take a picture of it. Stand it up. Use natural light if you can. Get a good picture of it on your phone. And, you know, sometimes you might need to turn it into a black and white picture to see the values. And maybe even look at it right next to your reference photo. And something's going to jump right out at you. So there's 3 different things you can do. You can, I'm seeing a bunch of different things now that I'm looking at it, you know, after you're standing up, taking a breath, fresh, you know. But there's 3 different ways that you can see the mistakes in your painting that you may not have seen otherwise. You can turn it upside down and look at it. You can take a picture with your phone and look at it, and you can hold it up to a mirror. You know, I have a mirror in my studio anyway right here because I do hair. I still have a few clients that come to my house. So, and that's a mirror that's left over from my studio anyway, from the studio days. But I love having a mirror in my studio. I highly recommend it. You guys probably already knew that. You know, anytime I want to, I just take it, walk over and look at it in the mirror. It's very, very handy. It's a big, I'll show you my mirror. It's a big mirror. And mirrors are cheap now. Hello, turn the camera around. So, you know, get this stand in the way. Get this out of here. So yeah, nice big mirror. And I just hold my artwork right up into that mirror and I can see things I just normally wouldn't have seen. So, any questions you guys on this? Actually, I like doing this way. Let me look at the comments on my iPad. See if you guys have any comments. Taking a picture helps. Yeah. All right. So if there's no other questions, so do you guys have a preference on when I come back to work on this more? I mean, I could come back this afternoon. Is that okay? Does that matter to anybody? I could come back this afternoon and I'd like to finish it this afternoon, to tell you the truth, now that I think about it, because I'd like to put the other stuff, the resin on it tomorrow. So what are your thoughts? Has anybody here done, everybody's happy. Has anybody here done resin on wood? Well, Alicia, you have. Do you think I need to seal this? I probably should with my polyacrylic. Yeah. I gotta say, I'm better able to get in the zone doing it this way. I don't know why. I paint better when I'm in the zone. We all do. All right, so I'd like to finish painting it today so that I can put the polyacrylic on it, let it dry, and resin tomorrow. What do you guys think about the resin? Should I do these things? They're still a little bit soft. It's like, I don't know if I like this thing. Did I waste all my modeling paste? I don't know. I don't know if I like this on here, you guys. Yeah, I want to resin this. You think it's too pretty to resin? I shouldn't resin it? That's a good problem to have, right? Well, I've got 2 of them. What should I do? I could put, I could put, I think this might look cool on the bow, wouldn't it? You like it what? Oh, you like this thing? You like this? Well, remember, we're gonna cover this in the sparkly diamond dust. I know, I don't know. I gotta think about it a little bit more. Now the other thing too, save them for Christmas, sell me one. Oh, Trish. Who knows, maybe I'll see you and I'll just bring it down in the car or whatever if I drive down. But if you're doing this on canvas, you might even do a fabric, you know? I could see doing fabric or something. But what should I do for this, you guys? Tell me. Tell me, tell me. Should we do, with this, how would this look on here? I don't know. I think, honestly, if it was on canvas, I would do a big, huge, out of yarn. What is that called when it's a big ball made out of yarn? Embellish the tail, bow, and a bit around the oval and resin. Oh, just don't even use this thing? Just put it right on there? The diamond dust? Maybe that, actually the diamond dust right on there would probably look better. Am I right? Here, let's see what it looks like if we pour it on there right now with the used stuff. The pom-pom. Thank you, Alicia. God, I tell you. All right, here, let's have a look. Let's just have a look, shall we? What is she saying? I've been painting mine with the idea of making it a teaching piece. Yeah. All right, so look, what if we did this? Oh boy. The thing is, I can't mound it like that, can I? I don't, oh my goodness. That is kind of pretty. Wait, hold on. Hold on, hold on. How do I get it? Wait, I'm gonna take it out of the mount and show you. Hold on, hold on. Sorry. Oh, my phone didn't like that. Hold on. I like that. What do you think? Do you like that? Oh, here's the comments. Try some on the wood thing. Oh, okay. I don't know how I'm going to do that right now. Oh, Lord. I just don't think I like the wood thing. I don't think I like this. What the hell am I going to do with this? This looks good, right? Without that. The problem is I don't know how much I can, I guess I'm going to have to do a few layers of it to get it on there. And I have a feeling it's going to look really good on the bow too. Look at that. Oh boy. That is going to look nice on there. Let's see. The diamond dust is going to dimple the resin a little. Wait for the resin to settle. Oh, and put it on top. I'm going to talk to you more about that to find out exactly what you mean, Tammy. Okay. Let me show you something else. Yeah, I know. You're right, Trish. I like the cottontail to be the diamond dust. I don't know that I want it up there. And maybe that's the only thing that should be done. But I don't like this crappy pink ribbon the way it is right now. So maybe a metallic paint, or maybe, boy, velvet would look cool. Something, it needs something. I do have little seed beads. Let me get the seed beads, hold on. I'll take you with me. Would seed beads be too much? It might be. Let's take a look. Where are they? Yeah, I learned that when I did my other thing. It sinks in. Good point. No, I don't like this. I don't know. My brain hurts. My brain got too tired. That's going to be too chunky and weird. Yeah, I think I just have to paint the ribbon nicer. Perhaps an opalescent. Oh, a pearly color. Yeah, we'll do a pearly pink. That would look, there you go. Pearly pink would look good, right? Yes, diamond dust on top of the resin so it won't lose its glimmer. But how am I going to build it up, or am I? I guess I can't. All right, so should I build it up or no? Oh, now I gotta, how am I gonna get this back in there? I'll do that after we're off camera. All right, I bet I have a pearlescent pink. An opalescent, pearlescent, or even a metallic pink might work. And then if that's not good, I'll just leave it matte. All right, you guys, sorry. Yeah, I might talk to Alicia and Tammy about how to do the diamond dust. You can put a layer in the resin and then a layer on top. Okay, yeah. Now, how many hours into the resin would I put the diamond dust on so that it doesn't sink in? How many, you think 7 hours in? Maybe 2 hours in? That'd be a good test to find out, right? Anyway, all right, you guys, I'm gonna let you go. If you have an idea on how long you think I should wait to put, yeah, I have an art high. How long should I wait to put the diamond dust on top of the resin? Let me know below. I'll be back on this afternoon and finish this guy up. Thank you so much for being here. 5 to 6 hours, okay. All right, yay, I'm so excited. Add bulk with clear crushed glass. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be right there. Okay, I'm gonna drive my husband. I'm gonna let you guys go. Love you, bye.